Alright, so it took a couple days of effort, but I finally got done testing Dell Precision Workstations for NVIDIA Tesla compatibility. And on the left, you got stack of the PCs that are compatible. On the right, you got ones that aren't. And my cat Onyx is going to inspect everything, even though this stuff's been here for a day now. So I'll start with the ones that aren't compatible, which is the Dell Precision T3600, T5600, and T7600. They would power on, but they wouldn't post. They would show error code number 2, which, based on what I read in the manual, implied it was a PCIe training issue. Then the ones that were compatible were the T3610, T7610, 5810, and 7810. With those, they all have above 4G decoding support in BIOS. I can't speak for the older versions of the BIOS, so I would make sure your BIOS is up to date before you put Tesla cards in them. They do have differing requirements depending on the machine and your configuration. So with the 3610, that will require a 685 watt power supply. You can't use the 425 watt one, since that config doesn't allow for powered GPUs. The 7610 comes with a 1300 watt power supply only, so no issues there. The 5810, it will require a 685 watt power supply as well for powered GPU support. The 7810 apparently comes with a 685 watt or an 825 watt variant for the power supplies. Either will work, just depending on how much hardware you plan on installing. You will need to supply power for fans, and the easiest way to do it would be to get a SATA power adapter that converts the SATA power connector into some 3-pin fan headers. I'm toying with some 3D prints of fan ducts just to kind of see what works also. One of the downfalls of putting a Tesla in these is you're not going to get as good a cooling as you would in a server, since these really aren't designed for static pressure. They're more designed for airflow. And then getting into the specific models. So with the T7610, it has a maximum GPU power rating of 675 watts, which ends up being 225 watts per GPU. And 75 watts of that comes from the motherboard through the slot, and then 150 watts of that comes through the breakout power connectors coming from the power supply board. The 7610 does have 3 8-pin PCIe power connectors coming off of it, so you can either use adapters to convert the existing Dell PCIe power connections to 8-pin EPS 12 volt. The problem with those is it has the Dell T7610 comes with 2 8-pin PCIe power connections, and then one that is a dual 6-pin. So if you want to run more than one Tesla, you're going to have to do some sketchy adapting, I guess, basically. I will be testing a config with 3 GPUs in it that will be running off of my custom cables and individual power connections to the breakout board from the power supply. With that caveat in mind, though, you're going to want to limit yourself on hardware. So I kind of got some rough numbers here, but I figured for a maximum config in a 7610, you're looking at a pair of 130 watt CPUs. If you did 3 Tesla M40s, that'd be 750 watts of GPU power, which would technically exceed the rated GPU power capacity by 75 watts. Figured 40 watts of hard drives, 30 watts of memory, and then 50 watts of just miscellaneous, your fans, your motherboard functionality, stuff like that, which gets me at 1130 watts. I don't know if I would try pushing it that hard, to be honest. If you can, I would probably play it safe and cap the max power draw of the Teslas at 200 watts each. Just because I don't really like the idea of running the power supply at 100%. Granted, 1130 is not 100%, but it's getting pretty darn close. You also could do lower wattage CPUs to kind of help with that if you wanted to run 3 Teslas. And that's basically, I mean, that's a max config. Those are my notes. That's like pushing the limits. And those numbers could be off. So I think I calculated a little bit more generous on the RAM. Because I think the internet said stick of low voltage RAM would be like 3 watts each. So I just calculated a little higher. The miscellaneous, that was just me pulling a random number out of my butt. The fans are going to draw power. You know, there's probably 20 watts worth of fans in the 30 or 7610. USB devices, network card draws power. You know, just kind of stuff like that. And then with the 7810, if you're running an 825 watt power supply, that one actually gives you a little bit better overhead, in my opinion, for a higher end build. So I figured dual 145 watt CPUs, which would be 290 watts total. Same deal, 30 watts for memory, 50 watts for miscellaneous, 250 watts for a Tesla, and then 40 watts for hard drives, which in the 7810, you're going to be hard pressed to get like four spinning disks in it, like 3.5-inch drives. So 40 watts is probably a little bit over the top for hard drive power draw. But yeah, and here's my notes for the 7810. I figured a 660 watt load if you were to do like a maximum config. And I feel like that's a little bit safer of a threshold than the 7610 for power draw. Same deal though, if you wanted to, you could do a limit on your Tesla card, cap it at like 200 watts, just to give yourself a little bit more overhead. Realistically, I don't think a person's going to be maxing one of these out consistently, unless you're doing something really weird. And then just some other stuff to talk about, I guess, would be other compatible models. I don't own a Precision Tower 7910, so I cannot verify compatibility. I would suspect that it would be compatible with the Tesla GPUs though, so if someone's a guinea pig or has already tested it to be compatible, it'd be interesting to know. I also have gone through the Precision Tower 5820, and that is not compatible with the Tesla GPUs. And I suspect any of the 20 series or newer well, I guess I shouldn't speak for the newer workstations since I definitely haven't touched those before, but I suspect for any of the 20 series versions of the workstations, I don't think they're going to be compatible with Teslas. And this is strictly speaking the tower models, because the rack models are essentially Dell PowerEdge servers, so I think those are going to be a little bit more friendly even with the newer stuff. Could be wrong, but I feel more confident at least that the rack ones will play nice with the Teslas. But yeah, that's kind of where things stand though for compatibility. There's not really much else out there that I can test without spending like a lot of money, which I'm not willing to do. The lower end workstations, trying to think. I don't know the models off the top of my head. Like a Dell Precision T1700. Those are basically just Optiplex machines. They don't even have the power supplies necessary to drive one of these Tesla GPUs. So there's no point testing those. I would be really shocked, anyways, if they could run a Tesla. Trying to think what. I think the 3620 is the low end 20 series, and that one is basically equivalent to, I think, an Optiplex 7040, although it uses the old chassis, which is kind of funny. But yeah, hopefully that's informative. It took a lot of time to get this together. I do plan on selling cables. They're going to be priced the same as my Dell server Tesla power cables, so it'll be the $27.99 price with the 10% discount if you buy more than one. The first run of cables, though, I'm going to try selling them with SATA to fan power adapters. So those will be a little bit more expensive. If I get pushbacks from people saying, well, I don't want these SATA fan power adapters, then I'll just do just the cables. And tentatively, I'm going to probably order 100 of the cables to be made, because I think they will sell well. The 79, or gosh, I keep mixing these up. The 7810 is still a fantastic machine, and the 7810 is not really a great value, so that one's going to be a tougher sale, I think, to get people to buy cables for, because they are a fairly pricey machine still. The perk of the 7810, though, is that you can fit more GPUs in it than the 7910, or the 7810. I keep wanting to I don't know why. The 7810, in theory, can run 2 powered GPUs. The problem is there's nowhere to get the power from it, because there's 2 slots that are labeled. I think it says 75 watt plus 225 watt power, but there's only one spot you can pull GPU power from the power supply breakout board, unfortunately. So yeah, hopefully that's interesting, and I can't say how soon I'll have those power cables ready, but if you have interest in the power cables, let me know, and I'll try to get things together. Unfortunately, I think it'll probably be might be pushing 2 months before I get any official cables made. Otherwise, in the meantime, what I'm probably going to do is I'm going to salvage the PowerEdge Tesla power cables that I have, because all I need to do is switch out the connector on the power supply side of things, because the Dell servers, for some strange reason, which is frustrating, they use an EPS 12 volt 8-pin connector, despite being essentially pinned out for PCI Express power, while these Precisions, they're actually using the PCI Express power connector that's correctly keyed, and they're pinned out for PCI Express power. So it is what it is. But yeah, if you have interest in buying one of the cables, let me know, and then we'll kind of just see how that goes. So hopefully that's interesting, and thanks for watching.